live at the end of the show, like maybe I might give that to you, but there's nothing to like go back and forth with memories and kind of like reveal like a true memory.
You're right. Since he died, but like the first flashback, I was like, I think he was right. He's so fucking manipulative that I was like, nope, all right,
let's back up a second, though. So my point with that, with the secretary and stuff, is that, like, they set it up to be she's so crazy. She clearly has burst into his office before. Mm-hmm. That's clearly not fine. You know what I mean? But he does it to her, and she doesn't have a secretary to stop him. But you still have this kind of setup that, like, okay, she's pushing boundaries. You know she's pushing boundaries with Jen. Mm-hmm. You know, like, what kind of person is he or she? And that's when, like, I like that they do that so they can flip it on his head and show the perspective from him. And this is where, like, you can tell that this is written by women. Because I'm sure a lot of people writing the show have been fucking gaslighted before. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what he's doing to her time and time again. And then, like, you know, I think she was driving because he basically is like, it's your problem. You were driving, even though he's the one who talked her into not stopping, as it's revealed. And I think people like Judy, and this isn't an excuse, she should have stopped, but I think people like Judy are really susceptible when people are, especially in a tense situation, if someone's yelling at them to just go, they don't feel like they can do anything else.
And actually, like, with Judy, you're right. I don't know, like, with Judy, I find, like, so her connection with Abe at the nursing home,
I loved.
Adorable, like, wonderful, like, great, like, whatever, but, not whatever, but, the point is, like, her connection with Abe, her connection with, Jen, like, wanting to have a baby with Steve and have a family, like, I just get the feeling that, like, she kind of feels like alone, and what she wants and needs is connection. Like you mentioned earlier, Lauren, like she needs that hug from Jen. Like I feel like she needs that throughout the whole thing. Like that's
any kind of validation.
Yeah, like from Jen, from Steve, from Abe. Like she just wants a family. That's her ultimate like goal and what she needs in her life, and it's what she doesn't have. You know, Steve's a piece of shit. You know, Abe, she loses, and it's heartbreaking for her, you know. So I think that, like, when she's in that position of, like, where we don't really see any other systems of support around her, and it was just Steve back then, you know, like, then yes, she's gonna kind of, like, go with what Steve says,
even if it's not in her best interest.
Even like the small things in his apartment, like there's no sign of Judy. Like Judy's a free spirit. There's no sign of her in that apartment.
Oh yeah, that's like Steve, all fucking like modern, decorated, really ritzy, whatever.
And I think it's super indicative of their relationship. You know, like what he says goes.
Absolutely. I also. Yeah, kind of jumping back again to that, like, so they do present it as, like, okay, so he was also really heartbroken. He also really wanted those babies. Mm-hmm. And that, like, and it's really hard sometimes, like, a lot of miscarriages can be hard on any relationship. Doesn't necessarily, it falling apart, have to be any one person. But then later, when he has, like, the, like, way younger girlfriend kind of, you know, coming in and whatever while they're still dealing with this like emotional mess,
right?
That's when you're like, no, fuck you, because you weren't gonna stay with her without a baby no matter what. You know what I mean? That's what, like, they slowly slide it in that you're like, no.
When especially considering
you don't get sympathy,
the sex that they had together right before then, he was trying to like manipulate her into like being with him, and it's like all the while you were with this other woman. You know, like you were not being truthful. You were being deceptive, you know, throughout this whole thing, and trying to get her to leave her boyfriend that she's with and says she's happy with. And then whenever you're like, no, never mind. I've actually been dating this chick over here for quite a while now. I don't care about you at all.
Yeah. And I do love it that like later when we do find out it's her and she is on the verge of getting caught, you're almost like rooting for her. And then, you know what I mean? That's a weird place to be. Like, you're not supposed to be on the side of the person who's, like, maybe getting away with a hit and run. You know, but you are kind of like, shit, I don't want to see you in jail. Like, I do have a lot of sympathy for you as a character. So let's talk about the tone of the show, because I think they do an amazing job kind of blending comedy and drama and trauma. Mm-hmm. And so I think Jen and her family's trauma is sort of at the forefront, and I really like how they dive into like these different reactions to the grief of losing a husband, father, and still manages to be really funny. And they show that a lot in the kids, especially like how the kids are reacting. And I think, you know, like Charlie, the older son, his anger kind of mirrors Jen's. Like all Jen is providing is anger, and that's like what she's getting back from the kid. And like, you know, there's a little bit of a temptation to be like, you're such a shithead.
Well,
but you know, he's a teenager who's dealing with the loss of his dad.
For sure. And from what we saw from the show, you know, Jen was like wanting to pursue dancing and music, but she gave that up to be the breadwinner. So she probably wasn't home a lot. And, and the dad was home all the time and was like the one spending a lot of time with the children. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a huge role in how the kids are dealing with this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because she's like, oh yeah, they're fine. But she was working all the time.
I actually didn't remember that she wanted to pursue dancing, and that like also parallel with Henry joining that little Christian choir dance club, which is one of my favorite lines, by the way, is from her friend Christopher, who is in this like sort of, and we were talking about it, like it's like that? This like liberal gay California version of Christianity that we don't really see on TV a lot. You know, we usually see like the more like evangelical Midwest Southern.
Yeah. Also living in the
Midwest. We don't ever see that here, like in our communities. So
yeah, so it's kind of it's really funny, and I love that line from him when he wants to join, and he's just like, it would be really mean if you didn't let him.
Yeah, I know.
She's just like, damn it.
Like, and then she wants to.
Later, like, she has so much disdain for it, which, again, my soul sister, but she just, like, too, the older brother is like, see what happens? You move out of the house and your brother's a Christian now. Like, it's so funny. But, yeah, I didn't remember that she also was a dancer, so.
Yeah, she basically, like, threw her dreams aside so that he could do his music career. So he was, like, an at-home dad.
And they do, like, mention that, like, a lot over the show. Like, that he was the stay-at-home dad. Like, he was the emergency contacts on the school, like, forums and everything like that. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, like, it makes sense that, I mean, like, I remember growing up and, like, you know, with my father, like, he was working all of the time, you know, and I maybe saw him for like 2 or 3 hours, before you went to bed.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if that, like, you know, if you even got home from work, but before you had to go to bed.
Right.
So just like imagining like losing like the parent that, you know, is there with you all of the time and supporting you. Like the other one is supporting you, but as a child, you don't quite see all of that, you know?
You're not as close.
Yeah. So just like, all of a sudden, you know, that parent's gone, and then you're just like, I barely, like, know this person, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And I do love that scene whenever she, like, she discovers the balloon, and you think it's going to be Judy's, right? Yeah. And you're like, oh, shit, she's about to get caught again. And it's the son's, and he just, like, misses playing whatever. It's, like, Call of Duty ripoff, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And she decides to try it, and...
Which really creeped me out at first. When he was on it, and the name popped up, and that he was cheating on someone who was playing a game that their son was playing, I was like, oh God, please don't go down this road that this man is a pedophile.
Oh, you thought that?
Like
that's really
kid or something?
And I was like, no.
Oh, I just took it as they were like chatting on Discord or something, and I knew it was something his wife would never read.
Mm-hmm. I've actually watched as in some mystery thriller thing where part of the plot line was they chatted via like video games because nobody would like check those things or something like that. So I was
that's funny. I didn't take it that way ever, but that would be like, what?
Yeah, at first I was like,
what are you chatting with these kids on video games for? I can see that.
No, but I do love that just because like I think a big part of building relationships is sometimes like trying your hand at something that someone you love really loves and, like, isn't your thing, you know, and that might be video games. We talked about that a lot, like, just as far as, like, when your partner plays video games, like, you don't have to be super into it.
Right.
But, like, trying it once is maybe, you know.
Which actually was the only thing that I didn't like about this scene, was because she's just like, all right, you know, let's play, like, you know, warning, I don't know what I'm doing, but, you know, like, I will play with you. And, you know, her son Charlie's like, oh, really? That's, you know, he's super excited about it. And then immediately she gets the message from Bambi, which is the woman that her husband was cheating on, and I was like, fuck. Like, now she's pissed and, like, is not going to play the damn video game with Charlie.
Her son wants to play with her,
yeah. And I was just like, oh, like, that was a moment for you guys, and it's fucked.
Yeah, you're right. I almost wish they would have showed her just, like, playing and
just
really
like a day or something,
at
least. Like, I don't know.
But also brings up a lot of other points to the show. Like, I loved how they went to the restaurant where the woman worked at. And, you know, Jen was getting really pissed off, and Judy was like...
He's just being rude to the server for no reason.
Yeah, you know.
Don't be the woman that hates
like,
the other woman.
Well, exactly. Like, Ted, and, you know, Jen didn't know that at first, that Ted had told Bambi, I don't know if that's her name or not, but that's just what I'm going to refer to her as, that his wife was dead. And, like, that's fucking hurtful.
Right, absolutely.
Like, Jen talks about how she went through the surgery of a mastectomy because it was, like, in her family.
Yeah, double. She said she had a gene.
Which really aligns with Christina Applegate's life. And then Judy talks about how Steve left her after 5 miscarriages, and it's like men just discarding women.
Yeah.
When they aren't useful anymore for childbearing, which that stuck in my mind, which is why I was like bawling at the end of the show.
I love the way she says it too. She says, he killed me.
Yeah.
He killed me. Like, that's like, I don't know, just a powerful way, because he did, like, in this story. And it's like, when the fact that it was when she got cancer. Did either of you ever watch Big Love?
No.
The first couple of seasons, but
this is like a slight spoiler for Big Love, but like, he's from the, like, traditional fundamentalist Mormons.
Yeah, right.
And then he, like, marries, like, a, you know, a normal Mormon, and they have, like, a normal marriage, and it's not till she gets cancer and can't have any more kids that he takes on more wives. And when you learn that, you just are like, oh my god.
So I was gonna say, I watched like the first 3 seasons, and I don't remember.
I think it comes out in the first or second season.
Oh, really?
It's a like quick little scene, and you're just like, oh my god. And it's similar, like, that he would, like, start cheating.
Yeah.
When your wife's going through this trauma, is just like
trauma.
And it's so shitty, because, like, you know, you can imagine, like, that moment in her life, you know, where she's, like, sad, upset, like, going through this surgery, recovery. Like, is that, like, a loss of, like, in his eyes, a loss of womanhood?
Well, that's what Jen
And then, like, so fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, getting riled right now.
That's exactly what Jen says. She's like, when I went through this, he, like, didn't see me as useful anymore. And, like, they hadn't had sex and stuff. You hadn't had a sexual relationship. And it's just, like, that all... I don't want to say all men. I don't want to, like... I would never categorize all men in that. But with what the world is going through right now, we're just ovulation tubes to produce.
Yeah.
And the minute that we can't produce, we'll get left by the person that we love. Or in Jen and Judy's case, both those men lost her aside.
I think, too, like, I love, like, you know, the layer of, like, he's still dead. She still misses him. That's still her partner. That's still the father of her children. So now she has to deal with this added layer of grief of what he did to her while he's alive, and then still miss him and also hate him. And you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that is not something I expected from the show. I did not expect it to be, like, kind of this deep, and that was,
like... There's definitely a layer of complexity once, you know, she found that out, and I saw, like, this, like, hatred build up, but, like, you can see in her face, like...
And
but
you learn about her double mastectomy and everything.
Yeah, like, and it's still, like, a struggle within her.
I was, like, sobbing.
Yeah, I do want to talk about kind of the flip side of that, which is just, like... Because they are from Southern California and they're incredibly wealthy, and like you have sort of this role of the money in it there. Like their fucking grief counseling is on some like seaside cliff, like in this beautiful pavilion with perfect weather.
The episode 1